How can we get our students to actively share their faith? We all desire that, but how do we make it happen? And how do we make sure that we're actively sharing our faith as well? Today, we're going to talk all about a strategy, or better put, a mindset that will help our students see every day as an opportunity to be a missionary. Welcome to Student Ministry Connection, a podcast for those who serve in student ministry and have a desire to get connected and grow. My name is Steve Cullum, and I'm so glad that you're here for this episode. Many of us have been on a mission trip and probably led several with students as well. They're great experiences, and I highly recommend that you continue to do them. There's just something special about getting out of our daily routine and environment to just go and serve in another culture for a period of time. But that's just it, right? It's usually just a great trip that lasts for a week or 10 days, and then we're back to our normal lives, trying again to help students share Jesus with their peers. In just a bit, we're going to talk to our guest today, Travis Deans. Travis is currently the Northeast Regional Director for National Network of Youth Ministries and the founder of 9-Month Mission Trip, a strategy that can help teenagers approach their school as a mission field. Before we do that, though, I want to quickly remind those of you who subscribe on Spotify that right now there are 2 feeds for some reason on there, but we're going to be soon taking those down to 1. And so head to the link in our show notes or our website to make sure that you're subscribed to the right one that will actually stick around. For those of you that are subscribed on other platforms, this should not affect you at all. And we also want to take a moment right now to thank the sponsor of this episode of the podcast. G-Shades is a youth ministry curriculum and teaching strategy focused on helping students see everyday life situations through the lens of the gospel. G-Shades has options to fit everyone as well, with 3 plans to choose from. This curriculum gives you the resources that you need to do what you do better. Do you need message outlines, a discussion guide, and a game? That's just $20 a month. If you're looking for a higher production value, including bumper videos, Instagram devotionals, and parent guides, that's $30 a month. And if you want an affordable, engaging video curriculum, G-Shades has you covered for only $40 a month. You will not find a better youth ministry video curriculum at that price point anywhere. G-Shades really sets itself apart by looking at every life situation that a student goes through the lens of the gospel and infusing Jesus on everything that the students do. If you want to learn more about G-Shades and its creator, Mike Haynes, be sure to check out episodes 32 and 55. We are so grateful for G-Shades, and we know that you will not be disappointed. So head over to gshades.org, that's GSHADES.org, to download Season 4 of G-Shades curriculum and use the promo code CONNECTION at checkout to receive an extra $20 off your order. G-Shades, seeing life through the lens of the gospel. Thank you, G-Shades, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. You can find the link to G-Shades in the podcast show notes. All right, I hope you are ready to connect with Travis Deans and hear more about his 9-month mission trip and all the free resources that he has to offer for you and your ministry. Well, thanks, Travis, for being on the podcast today. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I know that you're up in the East Coast, the Northeast Coast, and where I was before I moved to Colorado. So I lived in New England for 10 years, and so that part of the country is still very near and dear to me. But you've been in full-time youth ministry since 1996, doing a bunch of different things, and I love the big thing that you are very, very passionate about is networking, and you've been doing a lot of stuff with the National Network of Youth Ministries over the years. So take us back a little bit, share as much as you want to, but help us to get to know how God brought you to this point where you are today.
So my story begins probably like a lot of people in a small town, and I grew up on a farm, and I was at a small school. It was I had 33 people in my graduating class. It was a public school, but just real tiny. And so as a 8th grader, the teachers at my high school went on strike, and
Oh,
uh, I finished 8th grade at homeschool, and then went through 9th grade doing homeschool. And my parents were like, "Well, that's we've had enough of that, and so you're going back to Turkey Foot." That was the name of my high school, Turkey Foot High School.
nice.
Uh, I usually, when I speak at youth groups, I always ask students to try to guess the name of my high school, and of course they never do. And then when I tell them, there's all snickers and laughter and
Sure.
derision, and uh, but actually George Washington named it the Turkey Foot Valley, so it,
Wow.
it goes that far back. Anyway, um, so I was going back to public school my sophomore year, and I had been reading biographies of missionaries like William Carey, Amy Carmichael, Hudson Taylor, Jim Elliot, different people that had gone to other places to share the gospel message, and had made incredible sacrifices to share the gospel with people. And so, yeah, I had this experience that, it wasn't an audible voice, but it was just a conviction in my heart that God was calling me. I knew I was going back to school, and that God was calling me to be a missionary to my high school. Um, and so that was for me. That's where all of this began. Just responding to that call that I thought that God had put on my heart. And so I go back to public school my sophomore year, and some friends of mine and I, we started a prayer group that met in the mornings. Um, and we wanted to start a Bible club as well, because that was, it was legal, and we wanted to be able to meet together and do things together. And so we approached our principal about the idea of starting a Bible club. Well, even though it was a small school, he was pretty nervous about the idea of religion in public school, and it just kind of freaked him out a little bit. So so he said, "Listen, you guys want to, this Bible club, you want to, encourage students not to drink and not to do drugs, stuff like that, right?" I was like, "Well, I guess that's part of it, sure."
Sure.
And he goes, "Well, here's what we're going to do. Instead of Bible club, we're going to call this the Drug and Alcohol Club." So that was the name of our club for a year. We were in the yearbook as the Drug and Alcohol Club. And
That's
so,
fantastic.
can you imagine the first
Uh,
meeting
yeah.
of the Drug and Alcohol Club? Like, who shows up to that?
Did you
I
have
mean,
so many disappointed students that you didn't have drugs and
yes,
alcohol?
that's right. The school has finally sanctioned the use of illegal substances. And I, they get to the meeting, and I open my Bible, and it was sad. I felt sad for everyone.
Mm,
Um, but it was in spite of that, it was a great time, because we were part of the very first See with the Pole back in the early 90s. We did a lot of creative and different things to share our faith with students in our school. And so that was my high school experience. Was every day was this adventure of going to school and serving God, and just finding ways to shine the light of Christ in my school. And sometimes that was with a group of people in the club, or sometimes it was just we had a school assignment, and I found a way to work my testimony into it, or work faith into it. So I went to college then, to Moody Bible Institute, graduated from there in degree in youth ministry, came back home and started working with a ministry that it was a former Youth for Christ chapter, but there was not a whole lot happening at that particular time. And so there was a lot of room for, well, what do we want to do? What do we want to see this ministry become? And so we started helping students learn how to share their faith in their schools, learn how to start clubs, Christian clubs in their schools. And it was around that same time that we discovered the National Network of Youth Ministries. And so I became a volunteer with them. And so I've always had this heart of um, we want to help youth workers connect with each other and encourage each other, strengthen each other. But students need that too. Students need to know they are not alone in their
mm,
schools as they follow Christ. They need to know they're not the only believer in their schools, and
yeah,
we know that, of course, they're not. But sometimes they feel that way, and
absolutely.
so we want to help youth workers connect with each other, and help students have that connection as well.
Yeah, actually, and just looking at your bio real quick, I didn't realize that you were a volunteer with NNYM for so long. I've been doing it for a while now too. So living in that world of like volunteering for them and everything. But yeah, so what's it been like now stepping into the Northeast director role, and how's that going?
It's been exciting. It's been a lot of fun. Mostly, it's been fun I spent the first 2 years just kind of getting to know people, getting to know
Yeah.
who's out there and what's going on, and come to realize that even though the Northeast gets kind of a bad rap for being a spiritually dark area, and in some ways it is, but I mean, God is doing such
Mm.
amazing things. There are faithful people, and I'm sure I'm sure you feel this way about New England.
Hmm.
There are faithful people, plugging away, serving God quietly and but effectively, making a difference in their communities and their towns, and so it's been fun to discover just so many great things that God is doing out there.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Well, I'm excited to see where God takes it over the years, and now that you kind of feel settled now, and see where God continues to lead.
Yeah, yeah.
I know one of the things that he's led you to is this idea of 9-month mission trip, and I know from my personal experience, it's been fun. I heard about it through National Network, and some people were talking in our region, and I've been able to kind of just talk to youth leaders here and there with our local networks and stuff. And all of them instantly have two responses. I don't know if you've experienced this as well. They're usually taken back by the initial name of it, going, "Really? You're going to take students on a 9-month mission trip?" is what they initially think. But then as soon as I explain the basic idea of it, they go, "Oh, that totally makes sense, and I'm on board. Where do I find more information?" So I have a feeling that's probably what people are going to do when they hear about it today on the podcast, because that's my experience. But if you would take us a little back and describe the 9-month mission trip, but also tell us a little backstory of how this even came to be.
To be honest, I don't know where that phrase comes from. Somebody, I mean, we've used it for 25 years, and I'm pretty sure it was people used it. I'm sure youth pastors used it back in the
Hmm.
80s and maybe in the 70s. I don't know, but um, I was telling someone recently. It was during a worship service at church, probably 15 or more years ago. Just had this picture in my mind of a logo for this idea, and we'd been encouraging students for a lot, 10 years or so. Hey, your school's a mission field. You could be a missionary to your school, and that makes the school year a 9-month mission trip. We've been telling that for a long time, and so we're in this worship service, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I knew somebody who was great at graphic design. He was just really, really talented, and I'm like, I bet he could make an epic logo for this concept, and he did. It was fantastic. It was really good. And so we used that logo for a few years, and then I wanted to launch a website. And so in 2012, 2013, we were getting ready to launch a website. And the thought behind the website was, let's just gather together a bunch of different ideas, resources, anything and everything related to students reaching their schools. Let's put it together on a website. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't realize that there were already websites like that out there, but um, there wasn't one called 9-month mission trip. And so we bought the domain, and we launched it. And so I had another friend who was an excellent graphic designer do the second logo for it. And the second logo kind of it I don't know. There's something about seeing a picture
Mm.
that takes something to another level, right? It's I don't know if it's a marketing branding thing, whatever you want to call it, but that image helped us say, okay, you know what? There's something really good here. There's something that we can really take and run with. So we created the website, uh but it was mostly, I mean, we shared the idea everywhere we could, wherever we went, we would share the idea. I did a seminar about 9-month mission trip in 2016 in Kansas City at a
Mm.
large youth conference, and just kind of shared it with 300 students in a room, and it was awesome. But it was still pretty local at the time. But when I started working with National Network of Youth Ministries, all of a sudden there was
Mhm.
just this much bigger team of people that I'm connected to. And I just started sharing, hey, this, doing this, doing that. And it's been exciting to see, oh yeah, we want to do something with that idea. And so this summer we created a prayer card. um, I was going to several different Christian music festivals, a youth conference in Florida, and they're like, you know what, it'd be really great to have something to give out to students at this thing. And so we created a prayer card that students can write down the names of friends that they want to pray for. And just on a whim, I'm like, you know what, I'm just to see if anybody, just throw it out there, see if anybody would want some. And so I posted it on the Download Youth Ministry Facebook page and
Mhm.
got 200 requests for
Nice.
for these prayer cards. I'm like, oh my goodness, how do I? I was kind of overwhelmed. And so I think we're most of the way through fulfilling those, getting those
Nice.
mailed out. Um, but it's been exciting to see the idea kind of spread out there and get go to different places. And we actually about a year ago we were given a $5,000 grant.
Mm.
And we've been thinking, man, how do we use that money for something really significant, something that's
Mm.
going to make a bigger impact. And so for several years I've had the idea in the back of my mind, boy, it'd be cool if there was an app, because
Mm.
that's where students are. That's how you get to them, through a mobile app. And so we're actually getting ready, August 18th, to launch a 9-month mission trip mobile app.
Nice.
And which not too many people know that yet. So
Yeah.
so we're
Exclusive here on the
announcing it
podcast.
here.
Awesome.
um but the idea will be, students, maybe they're part of their local FCA, maybe they're part of First Priority or Youth Alive or Youth for Christ, or maybe they're just, doing something with their church. Whatever ministry they're connected with, the idea would be that, hey, share your story, share what God is doing in your school, and we want to post those stories on this app. And then, if there's kids who, you know, I don't have anything like that in my school, I want to start something. Well, then we want to connect them with local ministries near them that can help them launch something in their schools. And so that's what the app will do, is to, um, you know, let kids hear, discover stories that will inspire them, and hear ideas that will encourage them, and then find people to help them do it. So, but
Nice.
it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so cool. I didn't realize that it kind of all started years ago. But I think that's one of the greatest things about an NYM that I have learned. An NYM loves making other people's ideas famous, and they love pushing other people to the spotlight, and that's huge. So like, before we jump into 9-month mission trip just a little bit more, another big push, I know Travis was the same. If you're not connected to others through national network, number one, it's really important for us to do that, just for our own, spiritual health and all those different
Hmm.
things. But
Absolutely.
also, like, they help promote each other and ideas like this, and which is really awesome. So let's get back to 9-month mission trip. How can churches, youth groups, or even individuals beyond the app, like, how do they actually take part in it? What's the process, I guess, the ideal process? Because you put out all the resources and things like that, but if a church said, hey, this sounds great, what do I do next?
Honestly, it's a concept that you take it and you run with it however God leads you. We have some resources, we have some ideas, we have some stuff that we share. But the big thing is, it's an idea that a youth pastor can take it and really tailor it to their ministry, or a, an FCA, or whatever kind of parachurch ministry. They can take that concept and say, here's what we're going to do with that. So, and if we have on our website, we have the logo there. We have a one night message that youth workers can share with their students to inspire them. We have a couple of promo videos that kind of, get the gears turning in students' heads. Like, when you think of school, what do you think of? And what if it was something different? What if it wasn't just a place you had to be? What if it was a place that God was sending you? And so we're trying to provide more and more resources, that will encourage youth workers and give them what they need to equip their students. But really, it just comes down to a big idea that could change how your students see each school year, and really how they see life. Because I always tell youth workers, listen, if your students, number one, if they can live out their faith in school, one of the most hostile environments that they'll ever encounter, they could probably live out their faith anywhere. I mean, that's probably a genuine, real faith, right?
Hmm.
And if they can share their faith at school, if they can express their faith, share their faith with friends, I mean, that's going to prepare them for college and the real world, the business world, whatever world God leads them into. That's going to prepare them for life. And so, the idea of just thinking every day of your life, I'm on mission for God. God has a purpose and plan for this day. This day has, it's not just random. It's not just do whatever comes next. God has a purpose and a plan. Live it intentionally, purposefully. So that's our hope with this. Our hope is that this idea of going to school with a purpose bleeds over into every other part of life.
Nice, nice. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to it beyond just the concept. As I looked more into it, I love that it's not this set program that you have lined out, that we have to, as youth pastors, try to figure out, okay, where am I going to put this and how is it going to work into this overall plan and all this stuff. And do I set aside so many weeks or whatever? It's really kind of ambiguous in a way to leave it up to us to take this concept into it. And I know as we're still processing how we're going to do that this year, we're just planning on kicking off the school year, that being the message that you provide, using that as a starting point to really launch into this concept this year, handing out the cards that I was one of the 200 youth pastors that reached out to you and just got those in the mail the other day. So handing those cards out that night and challenging students to think about who they're going to pray for, who they're going to reach out to this year to share the gospel, and kind of kicking it off that night, but then also reminding them throughout the year, hey, like in your small groups, maybe from stage, maybe using some stuff online, but just it's something that we'll be continuing to hit throughout the school year. But it's not a program, it's not a series or anything like that. It's just going to be who we are moving forward.
So I always encourage youth pastors that, because I know youth pastors don't need something else to do, right? They don't need something else on their plate. They don't need another project. What they do need is tools that help them accomplish what they already want to do, right? And so, just assuming most youth pastors, hopefully all, want to disciple their students. They want to help their students follow Jesus as closely as possible. And one of the, looking at scripture, one of the things that I refer back to a lot is Luke chapter 10, where Jesus sends out the 72, right? He's teaching them to follow him. But part of that discipleship process for Jesus was sending them out to do ministry. And so he sends them out to the towns and the villages where he was about to go. He tells them to proclaim the gospel, heal the sick, to pray. And then they come back to Jesus and they share these stories of, wow, you should have seen what happened. And, wouldn't it be awesome for our students if there was a place we could send our students that we are discipling as part of that process of discipling them? Wouldn't it be great if there's somewhere we could send them to do ministry, to pray for people, to care about people, to share the gospel, and they could come back and say, wow, you should hear what happened. And their schools is the perfect place for that. Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, you get up and you say, hey guys, tomorrow morning you're going to school. We're going to pray that God will use you, that God will do great things through you. And please tell us, because next Wednesday we want a couple of you to get up on stage and tell us what God did through you in your school. And I just think that, to me, that's exciting. And we sell our students short if we don't give them that full discipleship process. If we stop short of encouraging them to do ministry, we miss something important in the process. And mission trips and service projects are the big ways that we send students out. But once a year or a couple times a year, that's just not enough. They need to practice this in their everyday lives.
Yeah. That's great. And it's so cool how, like, for us, it's just internalizing it. I feel like God has really led us to really focus a lot on evangelism this year. And it was so cool how, like, when I finally felt pretty clear that that's what was going to be our primary focus this school year from the Holy Spirit, it was when I started hearing about 9-month mission trip and all these different things going to start to line up. It was really awesome. And so we just had a couple of weeks ago, one of our former students and leaders who went on a summer-long mission trip to Africa. He came back and shared. We pitched our summer mission trip next year to the Dominican Republic, and I had a ton of high school students that said they showed interest. And so there's momentum here that I can't wait to, like, in a couple of weeks, just say, "Hey guys, by the way, we told you about that other mission trip, but here's one that's going to be 9 months long." And they're like, "What the heck?" And you're like, "No, every day of your life." And like, I'm excited about the future and the momentum we're going to be able to build using the resources and stuff that you put out.
I like to tell students that, it's a mission. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I always tell students, if you ever have a chance to go on a mission trip to another country or somewhere, go, absolutely go. You'll never ever regret it. But then, I tell them, this mission trip, you don't have to raise money, right? The taxpayers of your state take care of that. You don't have to arrange transportation. A big yellow bus will come and get you. You already know the language, you know the culture, and the food is still weird. So it's perfect.
There you go. That's great. Do you have any other tips beyond what you've shared already that can help us make it a success with our students?
Well, I think for me, what I've experienced is that the biggest encouragement to students to take bold steps in their faith, bold next steps, is hearing stories of other students that have done that, right? Because you and I, we can encourage our students, hey, you should do this, you should do that, and that's great. But when they hear fellow students sharing, this is what I did, this is what God did through me, I don't know, that just carries a weight and a power that is unlike anything else. And so that's part of the reason why we're putting these stories on the app. We want to have stories available that if you're just starting this and you don't have students that have ever done this, hey guys, I want you to watch this video of this student. They live in another state, but listen to what they did. But hopefully, and probably you're at this point, I'm sure, but hopefully you have students in your own group who can share their stories. And just for example, I've shared this so many times over this past year. Last August, we did a 9-month mission trip live stream event, which we're doing in a couple weeks this August too. And so it's just a 1 hour, encouragement to students to make the school year 9-month mission trip. So we get an email from a girl from Nebraska. Her name was Zoe, and she goes, I was on part of the live stream and I really wanted to do that in my school this year. She said, the first day of school, I sat down at lunch with a girl who was new. She was sitting by herself, and I just invited her to my youth group. And she came and she got to hear the gospel message. She gave her life to Christ. She got involved in our youth ministry. Well, we found that out later. But then she said she closed the email saying, I can't wait to go back to school tomorrow.
Yes.
And I'm like,
awesome.
How often do you hear that?
Yeah.
Saying, we want to go back. I want to go back to school tomorrow to see what God does. Well, the story didn't end there, because I emailed Zoe later in May. I'm like, hey Zoe, your story back in August, September, that was awesome. I shared that all over the country. How did the rest of the school year go? So she writes me back with 9 pages of things that she and friends of hers did every month of the school year. And I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so incredible. So, we're trying right now. Zoe's doing it. She's shooting a video for us that we can share with people. And but there's nothing that will encourage your students more than for them to hear stories of what other students have done. So that would be probably my biggest recommendation to a youth worker.
That's cool. Yeah. And I've already you got my mind churning already, and like thinking through how we're going to do that this year. And because I love it. And it's again, it's something that you can weave into whatever you're doing throughout the school year can
Yeah.
easily just add those right in, and it can fulfill so many different things, but especially to encourage students to keep doing this when they hear their peers like, oh, so and so did this, maybe I can too.
Yeah, and just again, just to reiterate how simple this is, we use the three words when we do the live stream training. We just use these three words: prayer, care, and share. You want to make this school year a 9-month mission trip? All you got to do is pray for your friends that need Christ, care about them, share the gospel with them,
Hmm.
and just such easily doable and easily transferable concepts. Again, not something that you're at, another thing I want you to add, but no, it's just those are things you already want your students to do. You want them to pray for their friends. You want them to care about them. You want them to share the gospel.
Yeah.
Our friends at Dare to Share, I love their motto is, every teenager hearing the gospel from a friend.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. That's so awesome. And that's what we want for our students anyway. It's not so anyway. It's simple. It's easy. Just take it and run with it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for putting that together. I'm going to turn the page just a little bit. I know that we're talking about making sure that students are connected, and it's really important for us to do that. And like you said, part of your history with working with the national network is not only connecting youth workers, but making sure students are connected with each other in our youth groups, beyond our youth groups, all those different things, connecting with students that haven't heard the gospel. But I'd love to turn just a little bit to youth workers themselves. So
Yeah.
it's no secret that we've had a bunch of youth workers that have stepped out of youth ministry over the last couple of
Mm,
years. And
yeah.
so knowing all your work with NYM and more over the years, I know you strongly believe in networking. So what encouragements do you have for our audience who maybe aren't as connected as they want to be, maybe within their church or outside their church as well?
I mean, this is what I always tell youth workers. I'm like, listen, if you want to last longer in ministry and be more effective in ministry, there's almost nothing more important than being connected with others nearby you. Um, we can find connections, all over the world through the internet, and that's great. That's really good. It's actually really incredible. But there's nothing quite like being able to call somebody and say, "Hey, can we do breakfast? Can we do lunch?" Or, "Hey, a group of us are getting together to talk." And those face-to-face conversations about, "Oh man, I'm going through this. Oh, I went through that too. I don't know what to do about this. Oh, here's what I did about that." Those conversations that you can have face to face with fellow youth workers in your community, that's invaluable. That is irreplaceable. Nothing quite takes the place of that. I was talking with a guy this morning whose his youth group is very small, very tiny. He's not sure what to do. I'm like, brother, you need to get connected with people right around you. I mean, you could ask somebody in California. He's in New York. You can ask somebody in California or Colorado. What would you do? Well, that's great, but they don't know your town. They don't know your city. They don't know what's there, what's going on with the schools. Why not ask people who are right there where you are? And probably you probably get great information from both, but there's just nothing like connecting with people right around you. And you alluded to the fact that there's been a lot of change in youth ministry the last few years, and boy, is that true. And I really feel like with how youth ministry is going and how our culture is going, I feel like the fact that we need each other is only getting stronger and bigger, not smaller. um,
Yeah.
the fact that we need each other is only more, getting bigger and bigger. Not It's not going away. And so um, we you know we need to step across those denominational lines and reach out, because you will find friendships, and you will find support and encouragement like you never would have when you step out and connect with others.
Mm.
So it's absolutely essential to survive in ministry today. I think if
Yeah.
you don't, you're just asking to burn out, flame out, and
Yep.
disappear.
Yeah. 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 Cause I think it's really easy. And I'm very grateful for some mentors and my youth ministry professor in college who was very honest about the fact
Hmm.
that sometimes ministry can be lonely. Sometimes you
Yeah,
feel like you are on your own fighting this battle, just you and God, and maybe some
yeah,
volunteers with you. And we're trying to do this, but I was very, very grateful that they told me the truth about that. And so from the very beginning, that's something that I've sought out after because of their wisdom. Maybe someone is hearing that for the first time today. And like, I think both Travis and I say, like, make sure you are finding others. Step out of your comfort zone. If you're naturally an introvert, push out of that, because it's worth it. It's so worth it. And there's great resources out there like NNYM that can help you find other youth workers in your area too.
That's what, when I first discovered the National Network of Youth Ministries back in the late 90s, I was like, whoa, you can do that?
Yeah.
And so we started doing that. We started bringing youth pastors in our community together and started doing things that nobody could have done if they tried to do it on their own. But beyond that, when I sit around a table with people from different churches, and this is why I always encourage youth workers, you're sitting around a table, people from different denominations or non-denominations, whatever, but think about what they bring to the table. Our Presbyterian friends bring this rich history of theology that is really good, to the table. Our Methodist friends bring this consciousness of social action and taking the gospel to the least and the lost. Our Baptist friends remind us of the importance of soul winning, right? And preaching the gospel. Our charismatic and Pentecostal friends remind us that we need the Holy Spirit. We can't do this without the Holy Spirit. And whatever you believe about that, you still need the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so we all have something that we contribute to the body of Christ as a whole. And so I have just found my faith very enriched by being around people from different faith traditions, that if I wasn't, I would just be, I think I'd be a lot, what's the word? I don't think I would know all of who God is as much as I do without my fellow believers.
Well, Travis, I know that people are going to want to connect with you. They're probably going to ask you some more questions, some follow-up questions, find where they can get all the resources for 9-month mission trip and the app and all those different things. So where can people find that stuff and connect with you?
So if they go to 9monthmissiontrip.com, there's resources there. You can actually go straight to my email, so you can contact me there. But my email address is tdeans@nnym.org. And 9-month mission trip is on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can find it in all those places as well. And we, if there's people out there, if you're out there and you have a student who has a great story that they'd like to share, boy, please reach out to us, because we would love for your student's story to encourage students around the country. So we're on the lookout for stories like that to encourage and strengthen the faith of Christian students all over the country.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I just imagine, our students firing up the app one day and all of a sudden, wait a second, I know who that is.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Or maybe they see themselves on.
Yeah. Well, Travis, thank you so much for being our guest on the podcast today, and may God bless all that you're doing for his kingdom, and especially in the world of student ministry.
Thank you, Steve. Great to be here with you.
And thanks to all of you for being here for this episode of the podcast. Be sure to check out our show notes for links and more information about 9-month mission trip, how to connect more with Travis Deans, and also about the 9-month mission trip app and their upcoming live stream for more information. We also want to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast, gshades.org. Head over there and be sure to use the promo code CONNECTION for $20 off your order. Thank you so much, G Shades, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. We're going to be back soon with another episode, but until then, if you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if that app allows you to, leave us a positive comment. That helps us so much and is a huge blessing to us. It also helps others find the show. Speaking of which, if you haven't shared it with another student ministry worker who also wants to connect and grow, we would love it if you do that as well. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode, although we will be back soon. But until then, make sure you stay connected, and may God bless your ministry.